What's up, everyone? As always, I'm Jake Varco. This is the Maple Leafs Media post-game show, and I don't even know where to start. Tonight, I've got some good news, and on the other hand, I've got some bad news. What do you want first? I'll start with the good news. Okay? The good news is the Toronto Maple Leafs emerged victorious in a wild matchup by a score of 6-4, and Austin Matthews got his 6th career hat trick. Simply sensational. An amazing performance from the Toronto Maple Leafs top two lines. Plenty of goal scoring, plenty of excitement, and a very entertaining game to watch. As usual when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's usually very exciting to watch this team play. They're a very entertaining team. They play with a great entertainment value. But the way that they are winning games is not sustainable at all. That's the bad news if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. They emerged victorious 6-4 over the Seattle Kraken tonight. Last night, they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 5-4. And that's great that they're coming away with wins. They're getting the 2 points. But I really don't think that it's sustainable for a team to win games, these shootout type of games down the stretch of his 82-game season and into the playoffs. I don't think that's sustainable, and I don't think it's something that has really ever been done before in recent years. Honestly, a great game for Austin Matthews. Obviously, he had a hat trick, but when it comes to the way that the Toronto Maple Leafs are coming away on top in these games, the way that they're winning, it's a massive concern. Massive concern. Chris Patterson says, interesting game. And yeah, Frank Rusty Nails, you're right. Last night I said, yeah, you predicted 10-7, and you were close, pretty close. Good call. A crazy high-scoring game in this one. Watching these games it's really hard to get a grip on what's going to happen. You feel like, okay, it's going to be a high-scoring game, but at the same time, it's unpredictable. It's unpredictable what's going to happen with the Toronto Maple Leafs on a nightly basis. One thing that is pretty predictable is that Austin Matthews is going to shine on a nightly basis. He's going to make highlight reel plays on a nightly basis. And in this game, he is the first star of the game. Don't think there's any questions asked about this. His 6th career hat trick. Great 3-goal night for Austin Matthews. He had some beauty ones, and then he capped it off with an empty netter at the end of the game. He almost didn't get that empty netter. Mark Giordano blocked the first attempt, gets it outside of the Seattle Kraken blue line, and he scores from the neutral zone. Call it a goal if you want, but Austin Matthews, his 6th career hat trick, and he's looking towards that Rocket Richard trophy. It looks like it's well within his grasp. He's in sole possession of first place in the goal scoring race, and he padded his lead a little bit tonight with 3 goals. Great performance from him, without a doubt. Second star of the game, also from that top line, it is Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner. And shout out to Jory, who I had on the pregame show here today. We were doing pregame player prop bets. just discussing what we would take, what we liked and didn't like, and he said Mitch Marner to score a goal. Hope he put a bet on that because it came to fruition. Mitch Marner with his 23rd goal of the season, and he also had an assist in this game. He had the game-winning goal in this game, and again, I was talking about this last night. When Mitch Marner scores goals, the Toronto Maple Leafs seem to win games. Now, when Mitch Marner scores a goal, the Toronto Maple Leafs are 16-1-0. So look for Marner to keep putting the puck in the net, keep firing them on goal, and good things will happen for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hurt Lockers says Matthews is just 7 goals away from a 50-goal season. Might be by next week at the rate he is scoring. Uh, let's see. The Toronto Maple Leafs have 2 goals or 2 games this week. They've got Arizona on Thursday. They have the Buffalo game Sunday, the Heritage Classic. So I mean, it's going to be hard, but you know what? I wouldn't put it past Austin Matthews to do this. Uh, I'm not gonna put out a crazy prediction about it or anything, but again, I would not be surprised if he actually did do that. He is well on his way to a 50-goal season, and at the beginning of the year, I predicted he would get 60 goals this season. It looks like that's going to happen as well. He's just been phenomenal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And another player that has been another player that's really been stepping it up tonight is John Tavares. He had his he's the third star of this game. He had 1 goal, 1 assist out there, and John Tavares is a guy who he's just coming off of a really down stretch of games. He had he had his first 5-on-5 goal since January 15th, 2021, when the Toronto Maple Leafs and St. Louis Blues faced off. So it's been a while since he's got a goal 5-on-5, and he had a stretch of 14 games where he went without a goal. That's not something you're used to seeing the Toronto Maple Leafs captain actually do. You're used to seeing him produce and produce at a high level. Tonight, he got back on the board with his first 5-on-5 goal in quite some time. And in the past 5 games, John Tavares actually has 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. So a streak seems to be brewing. His confidence is getting back up. You know, he's one of those goal scorers. Goal scorers seem to score goals in bunches. We see this with Austin Matthews all the time. And John Tavares, Toronto Maple Leafs need him to produce. As of late, he has been. So it's good to see him get back on the right track. Matthew Jack says Shanahan, Dubas, and Keefe need to go. So here we are. We're back into reality now that we talked about all the goals that were scored for the Toronto Maple Leafs and what the goal scorers did, all the good things that happened. Now let's get to the bad news of this game. And it starts with Jack Campbell in his last 5 starts has allowed 23 goals against. 23 goals against in his last 5 starts. You're not going to win very many games like this. Although the Toronto Maple Leafs are managing to do so, it's something that is not sustainable, not one bit. And I mean, tonight, Jack Campbell, I didn't think he looked horrible out there. He had some tough shots get past him from the point off deflections, uh, some nice cross ice passes from the Seattle Kraken, and really it was poor defensive play that allowed some of these goals to get past Jack Campbell. But you'd hope that he has at least one of those. You'd hope, but not the case. He gets another victory, thankfully for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but Jack Campbell has been far from the goaltender that the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base grew accustomed to seeing early on at the beginning of the season. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash the like button and hit the notification bell to be notified every time new content's being released on Maple Leafs Media. Uh, Post game shows quite often after almost every game. Today I did a pregame show before this game as well. My score prediction for this game was way off. I actually took the Seattle Kraken to win 3-1. Don't know what I was thinking with that one, considering these two teams, the goaltending's been lackluster, but Jory got close with his 5-3 Toronto Maple Leafs prediction. So good for him. Good on him. And Toronto Maple Leafs take their second game, their second win against Seattle Kraken in their second meeting all time. Hot Tuna says, I thought Muzzin was declining, but the Leafs defense is worse without him. And you know what, Hot Tuna? I think it's still fair to say that Jake Muzzin is probably declining. He's 32 or 33 years old now. So he's at that age where it gets to a point where he starts to decline. I'm not saying he's an old man or anything like that, but in hockey age, he's getting up there. And so, yes, it's fair to say that he's on the decline. He's faced a lot of injuries over the past few seasons as well. That doesn't help. Two concussions in the last few months definitely doesn't help. But the Maple Leafs defense is definitely worse without Jake Muzzin. I don't think there's any question about that. Jake Muzzin off the ice is a leader in the locker room. And if you watch the Amazon All or Nothing series about last season, you would know that Jake Muzzin has a pretty big say and a pretty big role of what goes on in that locker room. And on the ice, he's someone who's really he should be one of the Maple Leafs' more steady defensemen. He's an experienced player, and he's someone who fits into their top four defensive pairings. So they need him. They definitely need him back out there on the ice at some point. Um, but if obviously what the number one priority is Jake Muzzin's health. But if he is still out come trade deadline time or just shortly before that, you'd hope that the Toronto Maple Leafs would take advantage of him being on the long-term injured reserve and would make a move and hope to get Jake Muzzin back for the playoffs. That would be the best case scenario for this team. Brian D says the only stat that counts is the wins. And Brian, I like your positivity, your optimistic uh, viewpoint on this, but I disagree. I really disagree. The Toronto Maple Leafs have allowed 3 or more goals in 9 of their last 10 games. 9 of their last 10 games, they've allowed 3 or more goals. You're not going to get far in the playoffs with that. Honestly, you'd probably lucky to win 1 or 2 of those games in the playoffs. You've played against teams like Detroit, Montreal, Buffalo, Seattle, over the Columbus over this last stretch of games, and you're allowing this many goals. Vancouver is in there as well. These are all teams that are not playoff teams. When you get to the playoffs, it's a different style of hockey, and the competition is that much better. If you think that you can allow 3 or more goals in a best-of-7 series, okay, theoretically, the Toronto Maple Leafs play against the Florida Panthers or the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round, which is a likelihood. If they're going up against those two teams in a best-of-7 game series, and they allow 3 or more goals in every single game, I guarantee you the Toronto Maple Leafs would be lucky to come away with 2 wins in that series. The Toronto Maple Leafs would be a first-round exit once again. The Toronto Maple Leafs need to get in the habit of winning games in a way that is actually sustainable. I know it's great to see them get these wins. It's fun to watch. It's entertaining style of hockey, but it's not a playoff style of hockey. And that's what the Toronto Maple Leafs need to try to get to. They need to adjust to that. I feel like I've been preaching this all season long, but I'm going to continue to preach this all season long because we've seen the regular season success this team has year in and year out. But when it gets to the playoffs, it's a completely different game. And right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs are showing me they're not a team that's constructed for the playoffs. Locker, so yeah. I mean, again, obviously, you want to see Jake Muzzin. His health is a top priority, but um, if he is still on long-term injured reserve at the time, then yeah, you make a move, bring in some more additions, and bolster the lineup. Jay says Matthews pulls off the W again. Big W. Austin Matthews, yeah, he has been sensational this season. Uh, really, ever since he came into the league, he's been sensational. In his last 8 games, he has 10 goals and 6 assists, 16 points in his last 8 games, averaging 2 points per game. In that stretch of time, he's been a joy to watch. And you also have a comment here saying Matthews for Hart. And if the season were to end today, which it doesn't, I think, yeah, I think he is the Hart Trophy winner, at least a Hart Trophy candidate. He has been sensational and the most valuable player by far on this Toronto Maple Leafs team. Extreme Gamer 29 comments: do you think Dubas needs to do something at the trade deadline as far as goaltending goes? How confident are you with Campbell and Mrazek going into the playoffs? And you know what? That's a great question. That's $1 million question surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. I think that it would be cool to see the Toronto Maple Leafs bring in a goaltender like Marc-Andre Fleury. This is the name that's been thrown around, so I'm just going to use it. John Gibson, Marc-Andre Fleury. It would be cool to see them add these guys. But is that something that they can realistically do in the cap situation they're in? I'm sure they could figure out a way to manage the dollars and bring one of those two guys in. I don't think John Gibson would get traded by the Anaheim Ducks, but that's another story for another time. What I'm saying here is Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek have been lackluster as of late. As I mentioned, allowed 3 or more goals in 9 of their last 10 games. It's not going to get you far in the playoffs. I'm not. If I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs uh, in their management system, I'm not very confident going into the playoffs with these two goaltenders the way they're playing right now. They need to figure a way to get some more confidence, get something going. But I don't think that adding a goaltender will really solve the. I don't think that's going to solve the Maple Leafs' issues here. And I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of you bring a goaltender in. It's harder for a goaltender to fit into a new lineup, get that chemistry with new teammates than it is for someone that you're plugging in on defense or at left wing on the second line. It's harder to find a goaltender to bring in and get used to the system than it is a player up front. So it'd be interesting, but I think that's a real desperation move to trade for a goaltender at the trade deadline when like you could add multiple players at multiple positions and improve your lineup more than a goaltender would, in my opinion. Bates says nobody seems to point out or realize it's not just their D that you call out for being bad. It's also their forwards in the defensive zone, especially Nylander and Tavares in their own end. And you know what? Yeah, they haven't been great in their defensive zone, especially not as of late. Uh, they definitely deserve criticism, and I can think of times where I have criticized them for their defensive play. William Nylander, really, like they have not been good defensively as of late. It's nice to see them produce offensively, but they need to do more defensively. Austin Matthews has taken his game to the next level defensively. These two need to follow up and follow in his footsteps for sure. Frank Rusty Nail says, Jake, you're making valid points, but it could mean passing on the season because they will be out in the first round. And you know what, Frank? I'm not sure that there's a way that the Maple Leaf like it could happen that they make it out of the first round. It's not out of the realm of the possibilities, but the way that they're playing, I just don't know how you do fix that, and I don't think a goaltender really solves that problem. There is too many issues all around the construction of this lineup. It's not just the goaltending, it's not just the defense, it's not just the forwards, it's a combination of things. And there's a lot that needs to be fixed in this organization. There's a lot of potential to do great things with the Maple Leafs core four, but they're wasting years. They're wasting years right now. And right now they're winning games, but we'll see. It all comes down to that. We'll see what happens come playoff time. Tonight marks the first time since February 18th, 2021. This is a little fun fact stat. I had to do some digging for this one. So, first time since February 18th, 2021, that all members of the Toronto Maple Leafs core four, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and John Tavares, first time since February 18th, 2021, all four of them have scored a goal in a single game. So, we were just talking recently, feels like last week, the week before that, we were talking about how John Tavares and William Nylander, their offensive production has been non-existent basically, but they're picking it back up. That's great. Now we need to see this team follow up on the defensive side of things. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash the like button and hit the notification bell to be notified every time new content's being released here on Maple Leafs Media. I did a pregame show tonight, a preview with my classmate Jory. That was a fun discussion. We talked some props for this game, made some predictions. Mine were horrible. My props weren't bad, but my score prediction was pretty horrible. I took the Kraken to win 3-1. Did not happen, but that was a fun show. And doing two shows in one day, a bit exhausting, but here I am. Cheyenne says, I love Maple Leafs games. And you know what? They're fun to watch. That's one thing. It's really fun to watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play in these games. But come playoff time, we'll see how fun that actually is. Frank Rusty Nails says, could it be on the Maple Leafs management not having a potential goaltender in the system? Because Wall isn't the answer. Yeah, no, Joseph Wall isn't the answer. He's 23 years old. Uh, Maybe in a few years, he could be someone who actually emerges as an NHL level goaltender, but we'll see. As of right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs don't have a solid third option. I'm not really a big fan of the way that the duo of Peter Mrazek and Jack Campbell have been playing. I am not a big fan of that either. Neither of these two have been proven number one goaltenders for an extended period of time, and that's showing this season. That is showing. But I think definitely, I don't know how many like what team has three solid goaltenders? I don't know, but it would be nice to have another fallback option here at the very least if you can't get an upgrade. Hurt Locker says he's updating the standings, so thank you for that. Florida 83 points, Tampa 80 points, Toronto 78, and also mentions that they haven't played the Florida Panthers yet. So that could go one of two ways. It could either go uh, the way where the Toronto Maple Leafs emerge victorious in a couple of those games, and they end up surpassing the Florida Panthers in the standings, or the Panthers could really pat on to their lead over the Maple Leafs. So we'll see what happens. I believe the first time they play is March 27th, but don't quote me on that. I know they do have a game then. I'm just not sure if that's the first time they play or not. Chuck Fleet says, bring up Hutchinson. I don't think the Maple Leafs need to go that far down the line. And I mean, if they actually do have to bring up Michael Hutchinson, uh, that's when you really know that things are not going as planned for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I never thought I would read a comment on a Maple Leafs media post-game show that says, bring up Michael Hutchinson. I'm shocked that I'm seeing this, but I guess the goaltending situation as of right now is calling for it. And with the Toronto Marlies this year, I don't think this is an option. With the Toronto Marlies in 11 games played, Michael Hutchinson has a goals against average of 3.43, a save percentage of 896. That's at the AHL level. He's not going to win you very many games at the NHL, but then again, I'm not sure how much worse it can get than what we're witnessing right now. And I'm not trying to bash on Jack Campbell or Peter Mrazek because you know what? I will say tonight, Jack Campbell did not look horrible. This was one of his better outings as of late, but he still let four goals get by him. Not all of them were his fault. There were some nice cross crease passes by the Seattle Kraken, some nice shots from the point that got deflected, but still, you can't have a stretch of 10 games where in 9 of those you're allowing 3 or more goals. That just can't happen because you're not going to win very many games. Thank you. Thank you, Hurt Locker. So yeah, Sunday, March 27th is the first time the Panthers and the Maple Leafs meet. And you know, Frank, you bring up a good point. Florida has a great goaltender in their system, and Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight's been playing. He has been playing this season as well, and great young goaltender for sure. They've got a nice connection of goaltenders in Florida. You also mentioned the Leafs should have considered goalies in the draft that were in higher rounds, always getting one in the later rounds. And I mean, yes, but I don't think that helps your situation right now. It doesn't help your situation right now because even with, I remember there's a lot of hype around Yaroslav Askarov that the Nashville Predators selected, not in this 2021 NHL entry draft, but the 2020 NHL entry draft. And he's still, I don't think he's even played in a game in the National Hockey League yet. So goalies are slower to develop. Usually, forwards are the fastest, defense next, and then goalies take the longest generally. There's exceptions, but that's generally how the development train goes. And I don't think that drafting a goalie in the early round in the past few years would have helped. This is a situation that needs to go like 4, 5 years back. And that's when you really need to look at the drafts for that. And I think this can also go to the offseason that the Toronto Maple Leafs had. A name that we haven't heard in a long time is actually Frederick Anderson. And I'm sure we'll be talking about him next week. He's having a great year with the Carolina Hurricanes. And, you know, it's great to see him having that success elsewhere. But you have to wonder if he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs, would he be putting up those numbers? Maybe, maybe not. But it's really interesting. The goaltending situation in Toronto, not pretty. But again, I don't think it's the reason that this game was this close tonight. There was a stretch. So last night in the Columbus game, there's a stretch where the Columbus Blue Jackets scored three consecutive goals in 20 minutes and 43 seconds. They erased the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-0 lead, and that's just unacceptable. In tonight's game, there was a stretch of 2 minutes and 21 seconds where the Seattle Kraken scored two consecutive goals and made the game 3-3 from a 3-1 game. Like, the way that the Toronto Maple Leafs leads disintegrate isn't a way to have success in the playoffs. And I know it's game 57. I'm gonna stress myself out talking about the playoffs, and we're not even there yet. But I'm just saying that the Toronto Maple Leafs have had the regular season success. They're a young team, but they're not really that young anymore. So you need to really translate your expectations at this point in time. And my expectations haven't really increased for the Toronto Maple Leafs based off what I've seen this season. Like they're winning games. They've had a couple great stretches, but this last little stretch over this last month or so, their wins have been really shaky wins. The best goalie outside the NHL doesn't translate to a good goalie in the NHL. Sometimes it does, but not always, for sure. And Toronto Maple Leafs fans might know this better than anybody with the history of Maple Leafs drafting goaltenders. Justin Pogge comes to mind. Anybody remember him? I'm sure you all remember him. Brian says Oilers won 5 cups in the 80s. Not one of their goalies had a goals against average under 3 or a save percentage over 900. It can be done outscoring the other team. It's just most haven't seen it done in this manner. And you know what, Brian? It's a valid point, but in my opinion, it's also not a valid point because it's a completely different game now. Uh, the sticks are better that the players play with. The pads that the goaltenders play with are a lot less heavy, and they're also much bigger. So um, I don't really think that it's comparable at all. Uh, if this were to happen and the Maple Leafs were to win a Stanley Cup like this, I would be shocked. I would be amazed, but I don't see it happening. And when you're looking at teams, like I mentioned this on last night's show, teams that have won the Stanley Cup or gone to the Stanley Cup over the past few seasons, let's name them. They've all had great goaltenders, by the way. You have Jordan Binnington with the St. Louis Blues in 2019. He had a great season that year. Uh, how about when Vegas went to the Stanley Cup Finals? You have Marc-Andre Fleury, Robin Leonard, great duo. You have last season the Tampa Bay Lightning. The last 2 years, Andre Vasilevsky, best goaltender in the league. Carey Price carried the Montreal Canadiens to a Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, the list goes on. Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray with the Pittsburgh Penguins. You need solid goaltending to go far in the playoffs, and you need to be able to win in those close, low-scoring games. Two things that the Toronto Maple Leafs have not proved to me they have. They don't have the ability to do those two things. Maybe they do, and they just need to unlock that potential, but we'll see. Hurt Locker mentions Tuukka Rask. Yes, the Toronto this Tuukka Rask. Did you see the stat? Most wins by a goaltender drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he never even played a game for this organization. Oh. Chapal says people aren't ready for this conversation, but is Matthews best in the league? Certainly among the best in the league. He's top two or top three in the NHL. And this is a conversation that you can absolutely have. I think that his defensive game is better than Connor McDavid, and he's a better goal scorer than Connor McDavid. But we'll see. I mean, he's certainly in the conversation for the Hart Trophy right now, and he's playing like he's the best player in the league. He's right now he's the most dominant goal scorer in the league, and he's like it's really hard to rank them because they are players that have different skill sets. But I mean, yeah, it's Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. You take your pick. You take your pick. And if I was, for this instance, we'll say a fantasy hockey manager, I took Connor McDavid first overall this season. I would actually take Austin Matthews first overall if I could redo that fantasy draft because fantasy hockey, unless you're in a categories league, goals are worth more than assists. So if I could redo that draft, I probably would. Still, I'm in first place in the league, so I'm content with that. Hurt Locker says Matthews is 75 points, 4 off the lead, and I'm not sure how many games has Connor McDavid missed this season because the fact like Austin Matthews has also missed 3 of the Toronto Maple Leafs games this season. Um, let me look that up. Connor McDavid this year, 56 games, has 79 points. Okay. And Austin Matthews, 54 games, 75 points. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really close. It's like these two are both amazing players, but we'll see. Wolf Tank says Matthews in that line will just keep growing. It's Bunting's first season. Certainly they will. Next season, the chemistry that this line has, you'd expect it to just continue. You'd expect it to just continue to build up and something that they can build off of. They can build off this season's momentum next year, you'd hope. And Michael Bunting has been such a fine addition for the Toronto Maple Leafs. 2-year contract worth $950,000 each season. What a bargain deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But looking a few years down the line, when that contract does expire, you better believe Michael Bunting is going to be looking for a payday. Michael Bunting, the way he's playing, has a substantial promotion in terms of money earned coming up. So, uh, yeah, it's really fun to watch them. Michael Bunting has been amazing. Yes, he has been amazing. Chuck says, "What would Bunting's next contract look like?" That's really tough to really predict that far down the line. If it ended at the end of the season, I don't see a reason why he's not a $4 or $5 million player. If the season were to end the way he's playing right now, but we'll see. He could actually earn more money than that by the time his next contract negotiation does come up. So we'll see. A little early to speculate about that, though. And if you haven't already, please make sure you smash the like button and hit the notification bell to be notified every time new content's being released here on Maple Leafs Media. Uh, the trade deadline is coming up really fast. It's coming up really quickly. March 21st is the NHL trade deadline. You know I'm going to have a lot of content coming out for that as long as the Maple Leafs are an active team. There'll be plenty of content to pump out surrounding those events. There's a bunch of games coming up. Thursday night, I'll be back here Thursday night for the post game show after the Maple Leafs take on the Arizona Coyotes, Austin Matthews' hometown team. So that should be fun. We'll see what spectacular things he does in that game, because it seems to me that every game, or close to every game, he has at least one highlight reel play. It's really amazing. Uh, and if you're watching this on Facebook, share this video, tell a friend to tell a friend. All helps out the brand in a big way. I am I am a sports journalism student, just trying to get into the sports journalism industry. I've been working on this channel for almost 2 years now. Time's flying. Almost 2 years I've been doing these post game shows and Toronto Maple Leafs videos. It's been a really fun ride up to this point in time, and there's more big things coming for this channel. More big things coming, hopefully for my career. So I'm gonna leave the link to my Twitter in the comment section right now. If you could give that a follow, I am always sending out tweets. I'm covering not just Maple Leafs, but plenty of plenty of sports. I'm covering the Paralympics right now. Have some tweets about the NBA. Uh, if the MLB season ever gets going, I'll be tweeting about that all summer. The National Football League, really just any sport. You can find it on @Varco Sports Twitter account. So check it out. And as always, I'm Jake Varco, signing off of tonight's Maple Leafs Media postgame show. Thank you for watching.